What's up, world? Let me tell you about this beard growth oil I got from 12 tribes on Earth. 8 ounces of oily goodness with a nozzle that prevents sprays and spills, and soft ingredients that make it perfect addition to anyone's morning routine. From coconut to castor, all these oils are hand chosen. After using this herbal blend, the biggest thing I noticed is how soft, how strong my hair was, and how good I feel. Pick up your bottle today and make your beard the star of the show.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Ladies and gentlemen, last night I was up for a while and I was looking at, pictures that were posted of Nolan, and there were many pictures online. But one thing that really stood out. Nolan had an eye for white girls, y'all. He did. And we know the reputation that Mississippi has when it comes down to our men. It's a horrible reputation. It's a horrible, horrible reputation. We saw what they did to Emmett Till, and that was over a lie that Carolyn Bryan told. So to this very day, y'all, do you know those those racists down there in Mississippi? They always go and shoot up Emmett Till's marker in the spot where they found his body. They shoot that thing up all the time. It's constantly being replaced. Okay. And we know what they did to Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers was unalive right in his driveway by Byron Dela Beckwith. Y'all, they took 30 years to arrest that man. They made sure he was old as hell before putting him in jail. They let that man walk free for decades down there. And see, that is the kind of reputation that Mississippi has when it comes down to our people. Remember, Mississippi was like the number one state for lynchings. Okay, they did all kinds of heinous things down there to our people. They got a horrible reputation, even to this very day. Now, if you look at how the investigations go, white Mississippi cops don't like doing investigations where their people did something to one of us, especially unalive us, and they have to they don't like doing the investigation. They even tried to say there was no foul play when it came down to Nolan because they don't like doing investigation. Remember, we're dealing with the offspring of the ones that went buck wild doing all them lynchings down there. We're dealing with their offspring now. You think they're any different? They're not. They're not at all. And what a dangerous place to chase white girls is Mississippi. Let's be real, y'all. Nolan was one day going to have to deal with that. But that one day came on that boat. Now, what happened was Nolan was with a girl that dated one of the guys that was on the boat. His name was Bart. And he probably still had feelings for her and felt a certain way. So he was on that boat. So when you see there's a picture out there where you see the white guys on the boat and Nolan is sitting down with Katie in his lap. Now, just picture that. A bunch of white guys all by themselves, they're just really with each other. And the only guy on the boat with a girl is Nolan, and it's a white girl. Look, y'all. Look, you know what, Patricia? I'm not in no fear of that. Look, you know what has happened to me online? I'm serious. Do you know what has happened to me online since I've been here? I had a guy back in 2018 make a video on me and brandish a gun. You think I'm scared of some damn lawyer? Some guy brandished a damn gun. Okay, I'm not concerned. There's always going to be somebody trolling you, always going to be someone threatening you. That comes with the territory when you're a YouTube creator. And that is the fact. So, no, I have no fear of that because, look, I have been through it all. I have had my life threatened over a damn video. But good luck if you want to run around and tell people that. So, anyway, look, y'all, the bottom line is Mississippi reputation has not changed over the years, y'all. Those same people are there. And another piece of info I learned, shout out to Queen Amadaya. Um, Bart's father is a doctor and he does pain management. And Nolan's mother is a nurse practitioner. Do you know they both work at the same hospital? Bart's father and Nolan's mother work at the same hospital. At the end of the day, y'all, at the end of the day, we have to teach our children reality. Nolan was in the deep south chasing white girls. If you haven't spoken to your children and you live down in the south and people are seeing that, you need to have that talk. And I don't think Nolan's family ever spoke to him about that. And if they did, they have not mentioned that they have spoken about these type of things that occur in the South in places that got histories of taking our men out for doing exactly that. Okay? I'm sorry. We are in a time where it's survival mode as far as I'm concerned. That's what it is. And the bottom line, y'all, it is not safe to be everywhere as an interracial couple. And Mississippi is definitely one of those places. I'm not saying that there are couples maybe that have gotten together and they're doing okay, but that is definitely not the case for everyone. It sure wasn't the case for Nolan. It wasn't. It wasn't. And I do feel bad for him, but I don't know. When I see stuff like that, I have to wonder if I'm not blaming the mother and father, but did they send Nolan out in the world naive about things? You know what I mean? I know they said they spoke to him about when you go out with a group, you come back with the same group. But did they tell him about what it would be for him to date and be with white girls and hugged all over white girls out in public, especially in a predominantly white space? Did they have that conversation? And I don't know. Did they send him out in the world naive about what life really truly is in America? I'm just being real, y'all. Where is Nolan in the sisters? Now I see him with a couple of, with some other brothers. I see that, but I have yet to see him in pictures with sisters. I haven't seen it. Maybe they'll crop up on the internet soon. I don't know. But the ones I'm looking at, it is him with white girls. So the moral of this story, y'all, be honest about these things with your children. Don't send them out in this world believing everybody is going to be okay with that. Everybody is not going to be okay. Apparently, the people Nolan was around, they were not okay with that stuff. They weren't. You know, that's unrealistic. Hold on, I see the super chat. Nakisha Rogers. I understand that, but that is a very naive thing to do in this world. This world is dangerous. It really is. You may have, and I'm not talking to you, I'm just speaking in general. You may have a vision of what you want the world to be, but not looking at a person's skin color, you're not living in reality. This whole place is fuel on skin color, if you know what I'm saying to you. So when you raise your kid to ignore that, I'm just saying you're putting that child in danger. That's why Nolan thought he was safe around all them white teens. He thought he was safe. You know, I think that's a very unrealistic thing, because I promise you, Nolan was only 18 years old, but I bet you for those 18 years, people down in Mississippi were definitely looking at his skin color for the whole 18 years he was on this planet. So when you say, oh, well, you know, I don't want to teach my kid to look at skin color, well, to me, you're setting them up for failure at that point. You are. You really are. You know, Mississippi was so unruly, y'all. The feds had to go down there because when desegregation was going on in the country, Mississippi was one of those places refusing to desegregate. They wanted to keep the state of Mississippi segregated. And if you go and look at the history, the feds had to go down there and make them follow the damn law. They were running Mississippi like it was a whole separate country within America. That's how they were running it. You know, and wow. Well, you know, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So let me go ahead and get started. If you can see my screen, please give me a 1. Still a sundown town. Epic Eric, the whole state of Mississippi is a sundown town. The whole is a sundown state. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
The plot thickens in the Nolan Wells case, y'all. And of course, everything is all alleged. Now, it's been alleged that Katie and Bart had a thing going on. And Bart wasn't just there to celebrate the 4th of July. Bart was there to put an end to that shit that Nolan had going on with Katie. And this is why they lined Nolan up, allegedly. Also, there's a smear campaign going on saying that Nolan was drunk out of his mind, spewing all types of hatred towards Nolan with no proof of nothing. Then they had a nerve to say, yeah, there's two people who came out to say that Nolan was on the island after the friends had left. Two people out of about 400 to 500 people, and they know the exact time. Now, if you ask me what time was what 15 days ago, I am not going to be able to tell you that time unless it's a doctor's appointment or something like that. But just understand, people do get paid to say things, allegedly. Check this out, y'all.
Has the motive for the mysterious death of Nolan Wells just been revealed on social media?
I was walking in the opposite direction towards my boat, and I dabbed Nolan up. I made a slick comment about something, actually about the girl that he was with. I made a slick comment to him.
So he made a slick comment about the girl Nolan was with. Now, we all know.
You know, that interview that Warren did with Officer Tatum, you know, the grifter, Officer Tatum was literally helping him through that interview. He was helping him. And there were parts where it was clearly edited. So he must have said things that he did not want on that video, because there are segments of that interview where it cuts out and then comes back. So no, you know, he gave him a softball interview and helped him along the way through the interview. All I got to say is, Officer Tatum, you are the biggest grifter on YouTube. Unbelievable. Now I know why Nick Fuentes said what he said. He said, you black MAGAs are obsolete. And you doing this interview, you just trying to make yourself stay relevant. That's all. But you're a grifter.
Oh, the girl Nolan was with on Horn Island was Katie, right? Introducing.
Whoa.
This is Katie. And guess who the gentleman is over there?
Wow. Now we still gonna keep it all alleged because I was looking at the tattoo. Maybe she got the tattoo after this, but she's in a picture with Bart, y'all.
That is Bart Edmiston. This is the same Bart whose identity was almost hidden from all of us, because Warren went on to Officer Race Batum Tatum's channel and he kept saying, my buddy, this, my buddy. And we all like, who is my buddy? And one time he slipped and said Bart's name. But the buddy he was referring to was Bart. And that's Bart. So Bart and Katie were a thing? Huh? Now, for those of you all who don't know, Bart Edmiston plays football. And one thing about Mississippi, honey, I'm from Mississippi. Mississippi loves football. Anybody that plays football, especially from a small town, they are a big daggum deal. And if anything go down in a small town with a football player and he white, honey, the whole town is going to rally around to try to hide things. Is that what they doing in the Nolan Wells case? Everybody know what happened? Maybe Bart was jealous because Nolan was with his ex-girlfriend. Maybe they were a thing at one time. Now we know Bart Edmiston Jr. plays football at the University at Wyoming. He's 22 years old and he is from Ocean Springs. Now we know Katie McCormick, she's 19 years old and she's from Ocean Springs as well. Bart was a big daggum deal. Now, although we all know that Nolan Wells was expected to go to a D1 school to play football, he wasn't at the status of Bart yet. Bart was already there. So, and not to mention, Nolan is black. Katie is white. Who do you think the friends are going to side with? Even his friend, whom Christine Wansley stated, she didn't even know that Sebastian was a best friend. Even he said he made a slick comment. Was the slick comment that, oh, you know, that's Bart's girl? Was Katie Bart's longtime girlfriend? He came back. Maybe that's why they were trying to keep it a secret, because something nefarious went on that boat, because Bart family has allegedly a home off the waters. It would have taken him no time to get to Ocean Springs. Maybe somebody called Bart and told him, hey, you know, Nolan is with your girl. And he got on that boat and hopped on down there to Horn Island. Or maybe just because it is a big deal to go to Horn Island for the 4th of July. Everybody and their mama was on Horn Island. And he came down for the 4th from Wyoming. Matter of fact, they out of school anyway. He probably was getting ready to go back to football camp. He probably been in Horn Island, Ocean Springs the whole time anyway, rekindling with Katie. Anyway, it's one thing about social media. Social media will not be undefeated. And baby, we got internet sleuths everywhere. Listen, all I have to say is justice for Nolan Wells, and everybody who's coming out doing their research, don't stop. Keep your foot on the state of Mississippi, because baby, they will hide, they will sneak, and they will lie here in the state of Mississippi just to keep the truth from coming out. Anyway, drop down in the comment area. Let me know what you think. And hear it here first. Well, Kimmy's world is your world.
Shout out to that sister right there, because all these smear campaigns going on, I've been thinking to myself, this is not even our fight. These people don't know who the hell they going to war against. They going to get war against God. But if anybody know the Bible, this is how God operates. He could build somebody's pride up just to knock them down and to show his power. That's how he do. These people in Mississippi are so prideful. They feel like they can get away with things, look in our face and say, nah, we didn't do that. Like, we don't see y'all. There's something, a very important clue that we missed. I read it, but I didn't quite put it together. Watch this, y'all. So one day last week, I read this, but I never put this together. So this is about Sheriff John Ledbetter. Yeah, you know, the guy who came out and said, I don't suspect foul play when he seen Nolan's body. Well, I want y'all to scroll all the way down to the bottom. John is an active and involved community leader, a former chairman of the Gulf Regional Planning Commission in Bilox, Mississippi. So this just giving his background, right? So when you scroll all the way down here, it says, notably in 2019,
the girl that Nolan Wells was allegedly with is speaking out, and there's some contradictions. Now, Katie is obviously cooperating with authorities. So is her sister, and so is the brother and the brother's fiance. They're also cooperating with Nolan Wells' family. And from what we understand, they're all on the same page, Katie and Nolan Wells' family. According to Katie's sister, Nolan Wells and Katie were on Horn Island talking, communicating, having a good time. Eventually, Katie was picked up by her brother and the brother's fiance via boat. The sister alleges that Katie mentioned to her, again, hearsay, but again, that Katie mentioned to her that her brother and the fiance picked her up from Horn Island and, left. And that Katie assumed that Nolan was going to go back with the friends that he ended up on Horn Island with. So again, Nolan Wells showed up with a bunch of people when he originally met Katie. Katie assumed that he was just going to leave with those said friends. It's also very important that we mention that Katie has been extremely cooperative with authorities. I know I mentioned it already. I'm going to mention it again. And very cooperative with the Wells family, answering pretty much any question that they have about what happened. So she seems to be very vocal, very confident, and very direct about what happened that day. I don't think the problem lies with Katie. I think the problem lies with something else and someone else.
Listen, at the end of the day, Bart just need to go ahead and come forward and tell his portion of what happened, because right now it's looking like Bart is the suspect. Bart is the suspect, and he should be charged with murder because hearing the audio. But not only that, Warren keeps throwing this man under the bus. No matter how much Warren is saying, "Oh, my buddy this, my buddy that," and sir, you are literally, and I'm going to keep saying it, you are literally telling us what happened on the boat. Anyways, Bart, in this little clip, you will see where Bart is saying, where Warren mentions his name, and Bart is saying, I was not there. I hope and pray, whatever it was, he said that Nolan received the justice, but I was not But again, I'm gonna show you the Coast Guard thing where Bart's name is on. Unless somebody is pretending to be Bart, but I know I'm more than positive that the Coast Guard had, took the driver's license or ID to prove that that was Bart. But anyways, he should come forward. I agree.
The girl that Nolan Wells was allegedly with is speaking out, and there's some contradictions. Now, Katie is obviously cooperating with authorities. So is her sister, and so is the brother and the brother's fiance. They're also cooperating with Nolan Wells' family. And from what we understand, they're all on the same page, Katie and Nolan Wells' family. According to Katie's sister, Nolan Wells and Katie were on Horn Island talking, communicating, having a good time. Eventually, Katie was picked up by her brother and the brother's fiance via boat. The sister alleges that Katie mentioned to her, again, hearsay, but again, that Katie mentioned to her that her brother and the fiance picked her up from Horn Island and, left. And that Katie assumed that Nolan was going to go back with the friends that he ended up on Horn Island with. So again, Nolan Wells showed up with a bunch of people when he originally met Katie. Katie assumed that he was just going to leave with those said friends. It's also very important that we mention that Katie has been extremely cooperative with authorities. I know I mentioned it already. I'm going to mention it again. And very cooperative with the Wells family, answering pretty much any question that they have about what happened. So she seems to be very vocal, very confident, and very direct about what happened that day. I don't think the problem lies with Katie. I think the problem lies with something else and someone else.
Nolan's mom is lying, Warren's lying, or Katie's lying. And I highly doubt it's Nolan's mom. Think about it. Katie told Christine Wansley that she and Nolan had a very brief interaction while on Horn Island, a simple hi and bye. Warren is now saying that Katie and Nolan were cradling each other as he sailed off into the sunset to leave Horn Island.
Actually reached out to me the very next day, I think July 5th, and basically just made it seem like it was like a hey bye type of situation.
Everybody's texting Katie, because she was obviously seen with Nolan the whole day at the island.
Furthermore, can anybody corroborate that Katie actually worked with investigators? And why do things always seem to get so shaky when Katie's involved?
Nolan and Katie are on the boat. Katie is sitting right on Nolan's lap. There's 7 people on this boat. Ben Crump just released his photo an hour ago. When Warren called for a tow, he said there were 7 living souls on the boat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nolan having Katie on his lap in the middle of the picture circled. Y'all, this is why there's no witnesses, because these are the only people that actually know what happened. Doesn't matter how many people were on the island. None of them saw what happened to Nolan except these people. That's why the story is so airtight. And this is another reason why there's so much focus on the boat and why they won't let the K9 sniff it. And they're trying to stall and wait at least 30 days because head of the Cajun Navy said that the trail goes cold if the dog cannot smell it after 30 days, the blood and stuff. Also, the boat was taken to Warren's grandparents' house before they took it back inland. There's Katie on the boat. Katie is sitting on Nolan's lap. Notice how none of the other boys have girls. Jealousy, I think so. Katie is the only girl on the boat, and she's white, and she's sitting on the black boy's lap. Come on. You can't tell me they don't feel some kind of way about that, especially how they're all hugging Nolan like Nolan is their man or something. Like, get a life. This is what Katie was on the boat, y'all. We have a case. This has officially been cracked open. Bombshell tonight in my Nancy Grace voice. Nancy, get him.
Y'all, it's going to be a lot coming out about this case. It's going to be a lot coming out. I think what was going on between Katie and Nolan was very mutual. I do. I think it was a very mutual thing. She was once with Bart.
Then he says someone named Trayson called him and told him that, hey, they found Nolan's body. Notice how he's not. Then he says someone named Trayson called him and told him that, hey, they found Nolan's body. Notice how he's not shocked at all. He has no remorse, no feelings. He's probably a narcissist or a psychopath or something, but we can pull his phone records and see if Trayston actually called him to see if his story actually aligns. It's just crazy how there's an affidavit for nothing, that they're waiting 30 days for the boat to not be searched by canine because officer from Cajun Navy said after 30 days, the trail goes cold. The dogs can't smell it anymore. There's so much foul play in this case that it's overwhelming. And that's why the nation is attending to this case.
Oh yeah, we're gonna see a lot. I think over the coming weeks, many things coming out about this case. But y'all, mm, one thing I can honestly say we know, and I have to agree. You know, they're looking at the only melanated guy on the boat, and he's the only one that got the girl, and this girl is white and sitting on his lap, and they're white. Oh hell no, they didn't like that. That probably bothered the hell out of them. You know, I kind of agree with that. Let me go back. Where are you? Y'all chosen. Um, you know, I kind of agree with that, but I think, like I said, I think Nolan's family sent him out in the world kind of naive. I'm just trying to read the chat. Yeah, you know. Oh, who knows? Well, I'm sure over the coming weeks there's going to be a lot more coming out about this case. This is far from over, you know, and being that the second autopsy was inconclusive and Mississippi withheld his body organs and his neck and everything was missing. So I just can imagine what will come out in the coming weeks. And I don't believe the Mississippi police are going to try very hard on this one, y'all. I really, truly don't. I think they are looking out for those boys that were on that boat with Nolan. They are not giving Nolan even a second thought. Mm-mm-mm. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Now, I do have another live coming up, and I think it's kind of funny. So, there was a Cuban guy that got Trump tattooed on his arm. His ass got deported. He's back in Cuba. And from what I understand, this Cuban guy, from what they're saying, he was a millionaire. And his ass still got deported back to Cuba. And so we're just going to watch that. And these people are so silly. They are. There was another one that had Donald Trump's face on his chest. And he got deported too. So this guy, he is like the second one. Why would you tattoo Donald Trump on your body? Of all the people you could have, Donald Trump? Woo! These dudes are crazy. So y'all, I will see you at 4:45. Have a wonderful afternoon. And let me just check out Shirley Salone. Thank you for the 440 jewels. Uncle Alert and Fonessa. Thank you for the 550 jewels shopping cart. Okay, let me me see what that is. All Beautiful 71. Thank you for the 30 jewels. Flower. Okay. 6 Esticas. Please be careful because there's a news saying that Bart lawyered up and is suing all content creators posting pictures claiming that he dated Katie. Well, that's all I got to say is there's hundreds, not even, maybe even thousands of videos out on social media. And he must have a huge investigation team to be able to pull that off. I don't see how they can get everyone. There are thousands of videos about Nolan and those guys on the boat. And let me tell you something, even the major news stations are doing stories on this as well. So that's a tall order. Good luck to that. That's all I got to say. Good luck. Because if you can get all thousands and thousands of people, you are good. Okay, Nikisha Rogers. Nolan's mom stated that she didn't want to teach her children to look at a person's skin color. Well, that is very naive. In a racist nation like America, that's a very naive stance to take. That's all I got to say. Danielle Meyer, thank you for the 39-month membership. Some of our people need to stop saying, I don't see color. That is an extremely ignorant thing today. Yeah, you're right. I agree with that. Beverly White, thank you for the 550 jewels. Stay hydrated. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Ellie Brow, thank you for the 2 jewels, silver star. And Black RU 365, thank you for your super chat channel support. Thank you. Ellie Brow, thank you for the 2 jewels. Ken Kidup, thank you for the 10 jewels gold coin. Neek Hawks 874, thank you for the 2 jewels 100. And Beverly White, thank you for the Nolan Wells update. Thank you for your support. Thank all of you for your support for my channel. I do appreciate it. So I will see you at 4:45. Don't forget to pick up your hair products, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful afternoon.